them in a carburizing fire in a charcoal furnace, melting them, and as they melt, they take on carbon to become steel. And you get this big mass of relatively rough steel that needs to be processed and worked down to a smaller size. So when you're forge welding materials together, it's basically the same idea as using a modern welder, where you're basically a modern electric welder is bringing the two clean steel surfaces up to a temperature where the surfaces can molecularly bond together. With forge welding, you're just doing it with fire, and you're doing it with the pressure of either the hammer or the press. So when you're forge welding something, you're attaching them together in a permanent way. It's not just the physical attachment. Those molecules are forming bonds with each other, and people say that a forge weld bond is stronger than the original piece of steel if you get a truly good forge weld. Forge welding is the foundation of ancient ironworking because you rarely had large pieces of steel to work with. You have little bits of it that had to be combined together. You rarely had enough steel to make an entire blade, and if you did have enough steel to say, make something like a small axe, you didn't want to waste all the good steel making the entire axe. So you'd make the body of the axe with iron, which wouldn't hold an edge. It has no carbon in it. If you look at a traditional Japanese sword, that entire sword is made out of lots of different types of steel and iron. The edge holding steel is only right along the edge. This stuff's really high carbon. It's almost like cast iron, so it's not responding to a hammer very well. It's kind of brittle and hard. So the other reason why I'm going to start folding this and working it down is to bring the carbon level down so it starts to behave more like normal steel. But since it's so difficult with the hammer, I'm going to switch to the press. With a press like this, it allows you to work with really massive pieces of steel that would be really difficult to do with a hand hammer. Both these knives are ground. They're basically soft steel right now. They're ground and they're ready to be heat treated. Heat treating is basically putting the soft steel, it's in a softened molecular state. I'm going to put it in the forge. I'm going to bring it up to what you call the critical temperature. The critical temperature is a temperature at which all the carbon in the steel migrates and gets to where it needs to be, so that when you quench it in either oil or water, that carbon freezes up in a way that will harden the blade. Kind of got started through making traditional longbows, and through that group of people I started seeing a lot of the handmade knives that people were making in small shops, and I decided to give it a shot myself, just basically cutting a knife out of a table saw blade. And I just got heavily into it right from the beginning and started traveling and learning how to forge. Before I was a boat captain for the DNR, assistant captain for the Tech Noise research vessel, and realized I could make a little bit of money making small knives and stuff. Eventually made enough making small knives to start building my shop and feeling confident to go at it full time.
Can you do that over again, Scott?